Is it not working? Hello. All right, then maybe it's working now. All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the stream. Today, going to be working on the second boss for the dungeon level, which I am calling Lowrider Spider. So that's going to be fun. Already started working on that in the last stream, so we'll just be continuing that today. But yeah, before we get into it, just want to mention again that I have my Udemy courses available for purchase. So check out the links below if you want to learn how to make a game in the Godot engine. I've got a C# course and 2 GD courses. So if you're interested in those and if you want to support my work, that's a great way to do it. And otherwise, there are other links in the description below. You can sign up for my newsletter and wishlist Gunforged and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and do it. Lowrider Spider, yes, that's what we're gonna do. All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Oops. Lowrider Spider. So Lowrider Spider is just a pink square right now because we're kind of working on the attacks first, and then we'll be, you know, just going from there basically. So, how are we going to do this? So I think I already have sort of one attack, which is the spin around attack. I guess I'll show what I've got so far. So the first attack, well, there's actually a couple of attacks. So the Lowrider spider will spawn other spider enemies, will rotate in a circle like that for one of the attacks. Why is he not moving? Oh, we got some debugger errors here. Oops. Let's see what these debug errors are. Entity spawn. Oh yeah, we can't. It just doesn't work in this. In that level. So let's go ahead and go to the dungeon level. And we'll run this. And then we should be able to see what this Lowrider spider is doing currently. Alright, so now he's going to rotate around, shoot all of those projectiles, but then he also spawns the spider centaurs as well. So those are the adds that he's going to spawn. The next sort of attack that I want to do is like a charge attack, similar to, I guess similar to the maggot. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. So let's go ahead and do a state charge attack. So I'll just write those methods. State charge attack, and then we need to do a leave state charge attack as well. All right, so we'll have to fill all of those out. Can you show me your C# setup when you get the time? What do you mean exactly, Chizuru? Like, what do you mean, like the IDE setup? Hello, Zeno Blide. I hope I said that correctly. I'm live and I'm literally in lesson 15 of your course. Good stuff, man. Having fun. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. Really appreciate that. Hello, Soulfire. Welcome back to the stream. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, so let's go ahead and let's go and lift some code from the maggot here. So we do need to instantiate a telegraph arrow. And the question is, do I want to extend this out? I probably do, right? I'm just not entirely sure how this actually works. Does this telegraph arrow only last for a certain amount of time? Oh, it does. Interesting. I might want to change this, but let's go ahead. So we need this telegraph arrow. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's fill out this telegraph line builder, and let's just copy this. Oh my goodness, I suddenly can't type. Telegraph line builder. Okay, we'll copy this node and position here. All right, and then let's go ahead and copy this build. We'll rename this to Telegraph Arrow Builder. We don't need any of this stuff, but we are going to want circle scene. So we want this to be the arrow scene. And then we want to instantiate that as a telegraph arrow. Cool, cool. All right, what else are we doing in here? Telegraph arrow start. Attack destination. So we need to do it a set attack destination. So let's do that. Okay, we're going to say this dot destination is equal to destination, and then return this. Cool. And then in the maggot, we've got this telegraph arrow start. So we're basically going to want to just take that here. And we're going to say instance dot start. Start position. Yeah, so we just want to pass in this position here, destination there. We might as well refactor the maggot while we're here. So let's do var telegraph, or let's just do this. Telegraph arrow is equal to telegraph factory dot, well, I guess it would be new telegraph factory dot telegraph arrow builder. And this accepts a parent node. And then the spawn position is going to be what? Global position. Dot set destination. We need to calculate the attack destination here. So put that attack destination in there and then call build, and that should do it. So there's our telegraph arrow now. For the maggot, we'll have to test that to make sure that works. But while I'm here, let's go to the maggot and just remove that telegraph arrow. We actually don't need that resource preloader anymore at all. So we'll get rid of that. Okay, so that's, we'll have to test the maggot, so let's go ahead and do that. Get rid of that. So it builds. Actually, might as well just add this state charge attack, enter state charge attack, and leave state charge attack. All right, let's go ahead and give this a quick gander. So basically a flow where you can reduce the time between switching from and to the IDE of Godot. You know, like you have to build every time you change code and workarounds for it. I guess I'm not entirely sure what you mean. Like, you set up an IDE for the C# development, but you're not going to be able to get around building every time, I don't think. You just have to build every time. And then you just need to set your IDE to be the external editor for your Godot scripts. And that will, I think that's basically as much as you can do. I mean, there's nothing that special in terms of what I'm doing for C# development here. I'm just set up the IDE, set up Godot to use the IDE as the external editor, and that's basically it. I don't think there's any way to really reduce the build time. You do something nice in your course where you implement stuff at first. It's bare minimum, and later you improve and refactor. I'm glad you like that. Yeah, that was very intentional because, you know, I wanted to show what the actual process of building a game is like, and that involves iterating and building upon stuff. So I'm glad that you enjoyed that aspect of it. Yeah, you don't want to try to make it perfect right off the bat because it's not necessarily going to work out. Yeah, just little bits at a time, refactor as necessary. Hello, Ahmed. Welcome back to the stream. Good to see you. Hello, Abo. Good to see you again. I'm doing well. How are you doing? Sadly, we don't get hot reloading like we have for GDScript. Right, yeah. Yeah, there's C# is definitely a little bit slower in terms of the startup and whatnot, but... Alright, let's see if this maggot still works. Okay, that seems to work. Cool. Alright, so now that we verified that that still works, let's go back to the Lowrider spider here, and let's just let's get that attack working. So we're going to want to build that telegraph arrow. Not sure I necessarily need that telegraph arrow. We do need to calculate an attack destination, though. So we'll raycast the terrain. We'll go from global position to and collision offset. I don't know what that means. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say var attack destination. And we're going to set that equal to the player global position. And if that's null for some reason, we'll just set it to the current global position. And then the raycast, for the raycast terrain here, if that hits terrain, what we're going to do is we're going to say the attack destination is equal to raycast dot position. So just in case there's something in between the player and the charge, and then we'll build that telegraph arrow. Perfect. Now the other thing that we need to do is we need to make that move in that direction. So do I just do this? Accelerate in direction. How does it work on the maggot here? Pathfind component. So I need to disable avoidance. Ooh, this is kind of complicated. maximize velocity, attack destination, global position. Okay. Let's do this. We're going to store a vector 2 that is the charge direction. Charge direction is equal to attack destination minus global position. Dot normalized. And then in a state charge attack, we're going to accelerate in charge direction. Probably going to want to set an acceleration coefficient multiplier. Let's do 5 again. And then velocity component dot acceleration coefficient multiplier is equal to 1, so we'll set that back. And then we need the charge to be over at some point. How does it work in the maggot here? Oh, it just checks if it's close to the end. So I guess I'm going to need to... Yeah, this is going to be a little bit awkward. Actually, I'm going to call this charge destination. And we need to store that. So instead of having this attack destination here, let's do charge destination. Well, there's a lot going on here, but we'll see what happens. So I think that's basically going to work. I don't think I'm missing anything necessarily. So I guess we'll go ahead and test that. I need to make this state actually used though. Godot C# is still leagues faster than Unity startup times. Yeah, for sure. That's definitely true. How is Gunforge doing? I mean, it's going all right. Still a lot of work to do. Right now, my focus is on getting an updated demo released. Hopefully, if all goes well, I can do that at some point in November. And then hopefully, if all goes well, I'll be able to release the final version of the game at the end of December. But there's a chance that it'll get pushed to January. But I really don't want it to take longer than January. How is performance of Gunforged? I know you said you will be going to GDScript after this project. Please let us know how it compares. Would be an interesting watch. Yeah. So performance-wise, there are a couple of performance issues in Gunforged that I still need to work out. I'm hoping that the next version of Godot, though, is going to help me with some of that stuff. But, yeah, and then a comparison of between that and GDScript for my next project is going to be very good. I don't think my performance issues are necessarily code related. I think most of the performance issues are just stuff that I have to do within Godot to optimize, like shader compilation and just handling multiple entities on screen better. Are you going to use GDScript after finishing Gunforged? I think so, yeah, for my next game. I think I'm going to be using GDScript for it, because I had a really good time with GDScript when I made Collabins. And so I want to just try making a full project in GDScript and see how that goes. I don't know. I might change my mind on that. I might stick with C#, but we'll see. I guess it depends on what C# changes are made between now and then in terms of what Godot developers add for C# support. But anyway, let's go ahead and add a charge attack timer. So charge attack timer. So we're going to change into that state charge attack if that charge attack timer is stopped. And then we're just pausing the timer and resuming it whenever we leave and enter the normal state, respectively. So if charge attack timer is stopped, charge attack timer, or not, rather. If not charge attack timer is stopped, charge attack timer dot paused equals true. And now when we get to the state charge attack, what I need to do is say if global position dot distance squared 2 attack destination or charge destination, yeah, is less than 32 times 32. Then we're going to say state machine dot change state normal. Okay. So I'm going to make that charge a little bit more complex, I think, but I think that is going to be okay. Let's just see how that looks. Let's take bets. Is it going to work? The safe bet is no, it's not going to work. Spawn Lowrider Spider, let's go. Ooh, he did 2 little charges. Why did he do that? And now he's way off in the corner somewhere. Hello, sir. Can I ask you what you're doing down there? Alright, well, let's just spawn another one and see. Huh, that's very weird. Oh, you know what? I guess it's because I'm never starting it again. Flame attack timer. Oh, am I never... Oh, leave state flame attack. Yeah, leave state charge attack. Charge attack timer dot call. Start random. That's what I was missing. Okay. How do you handle stuff like status effects with components? How and where would you place that logically? I assume by linking the status effect component with the hurt box in a way. Yeah, that's a good question. So you are right, I believe. So I've got my hurt box component here, and it does have an export for the status receiver component. And basically that status receiver component sorry, I'm just looking. So, actually, hold on a second. How does this work? Right, okay, so, yeah, so if you're going to transfer statuses from a hitbox or a, from a hitbox, you would just put like the list of statuses that you want on the hitbox itself. And so I've got this method, transfer statuses from hitbox. That basically just uses the status receiver component and applies each of those statuses. But that's for hitboxes. In the case of bullets, I'm doing things a little bit differently because the guns have affixes or runes attached to them that can transfer status effects from the bullet to the entity, and that's handled a little bit differently. Basically those, if I go to my poison affix, what this does here is this is an event-based thing. So this on entity collision will get called when an entity collision event happens. And in there, I have a reference to the entity that got hit. And then in that case, what I do is I just search the entity itself for the first node of type status receiver component. So I basically just iterate over its first level of children until I find the status receiver component. And then once I've got a reference to that, I can just apply the status directly to that status receiver. And then each of the statuses are nodes themselves. I wouldn't necessarily call them components because they only work with a very specific context. But if I look at like my poison status, for instance, this extends a base status class, which does things like manages how many stacks you have. It has an apply method that I can override, that kind of thing. I guess it's the apply internal that I can override, but in each individual status class, like the poison status, in here, this is where I basically do all the logic that I need to do for the poison status. So in this case, the poison does damage based on the weapon DPS, right? And that's very simple. I basically just have a timer, and then I set that timer to the proper interval. And then each time that timer times out, I just calculate the amount of damage that I should do based on the number of stacks and the damage that it should do. And then it just assumes here, for instance, that its parent is a status receiver. So this is why I say like the statuses aren't components necessarily. They're making an assumption that their parent is always going to be a status receiver component, which means that they're not themselves components, because a component is something that can be used in any context, right? But the statuses can't be used outside of a status receiver. But yeah, they just assume that they are parented, or yeah, their parent is a status receiver component. And then, yeah, I just expose methods that I can use to deal damage. So that's kind of like a roundabout way of describing it, but I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some insight into how I'm doing it. All right, let's go back and test. I made that change. So let's see if that change that I made is working properly now. Trying to get comfortable here. All right. Okay. So I think that's basically working the way that I want it to. I think instead of going to the player position though, I think I'll just max out the direction. So charge destination. Let's do this. Charge destination is equal to global position plus charge direction times 10,000. And then we'll just let the raycast take over and modify that. So this boss is essentially just going to go all the way to the wall. I think that makes more sense. Okay, let's see if that works. I was thinking about it in a similar fashion, couldn't figure out if there's a cleaner way to do it. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where that's just an inherently complex kind of system. And so it's always going to have there's going to be a certain element of it just always seems messy. But I think that's just inherent to complicated systems. Okay, that's not good. What happens if I zero out the velocity when I enter that state? Hello, Emerson. Welcome back to the stream. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. I think I'm going to have to do some more complicated work here with how the telegraph arrow works. But hopefully zeroing out the velocity before it charges. Oof. Now hold up a second. Why is that happening? Why is that happening? It thinks that the position is like inside the wall. That's not right. Let's open up this little awful thing here. Physics layer 1. What does that mean? This is very confusing. This is the old tile map. I still haven't migrated this over to the new tile map layer system. So I've got two physics layers here. Okay. Where even is the collision mask setting here? Am I just not seeing it? Tile map. Collision animatable. Am I just missing something here? Navigation enabled, okay. Tile map, terrains. Well, where? Oh, here we go. Physics layers, there we go. Terrain and secondary terrain. I see, so this here, this must be the oh, I know what's happening. Okay. This is only marked as secondary terrain for some reason. Oh man, this is getting messy already. I think actually I can probably fix this. I think if I just do that. Why did those become unpainted? I don't know. How do I erase? Okay. That's freaking the Godot tile map editor. Well, it's changed with the tile map layers. It's probably a little bit better with the tile map layers, but it is still just like an unusable mess. But I will have to fix that later. I think what I did there is appropriate. So those, I have two different terrain layers, and the reason is because I wanted to make bullets like collide halfway up the wall instead of colliding at the bottom of the wall, which would happen if I had like a full collision layer here. So bullets will collide with secondary terrain And yeah, they'll just collide with secondary terrain, I think. But the entities will collide with terrain and secondary terrain. I think the problem was that these walls were only marked as secondary terrain. But when I do the raycast, I'm not looking at the secondary terrain. So it's just very confusing. I don't know. But I think that will fix it. So if I spawn this Lowrider spider now. Nope, it's still going through the wall. Well, shucks. Hello, Malavidra. Welcome, welcome. I played your game, Infinity Sweeper. It was really cool. I think I agree with a lot of the comments that were left in the forums, or the Steam discussion forums, which is that I didn't really know what the diffuse kits did necessarily. I think what I was craving was a little bit more interactivity in terms of like the bonus tiles and stuff. But generally speaking, I had a lot of fun playing the game. It was really like the idea of a roguelike Minesweeper. I think you're executing on it very well. And I had a lot of fun. I played it for quite a bit. But yeah, I think if you can find a way to just give the player even more control over the special tiles and whatnot, and the diffuse kits and such, I think that would take the game from good to great. So that would be my main piece of feedback to you, but it's a lot of fun. Hello, Christopher. I took your advice on just putting in time. It's only been a few days, but at least things are getting done. That's the way to do it. Just ease into it. Even if it's just 15 minutes a day, you'll get gradual progress. Just use another room which works for other bosses. After you set up the boss, paint a new one. Yeah, I might have to do that, yeah. Hello, Dragon Apple. Welcome back to the stream. Can I ask Godot questions if I have one? Absolutely, you are welcome to ask Godot questions. You're welcome, Vidra, yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of the discussion feedback was really good on the forums, so yeah, if you could just find a way to give the player more control, more interactivity over the special tiles, I think you'll have, like, the game is practically ready for a release after that. So, yeah, congrats. It's a very fun game, very cool idea. Okay. What am I doing? So yeah, these, for some reason, it's just skipping. Unless... Was I painting secondary terrain there instead of the primary terrain? Maybe I'll just put that back the way it was. Well, let's take a look at what raycast terrain does. Oh. Oops. There wasn't an issue at all. I just needed to change the charge destination here. Okay. Well, that was my bad. All right, let's try this again. Yeah, for sure. Let me know when it's updated and I'll definitely give it another try. Okay. Okay. We're getting somewhere. This is going to be probably one of the most complicated bosses in the game. I think what I want to do is I want to... speed multiplier. Add speed percent multiplier. What in the world? Okay, I think the speed multiplier is not being used anywhere, so I'm going to get rid of that. Just to simplify things. And then I want to add a speed percent multiplier. Call it charge. We're going to use magic strings for a moment. I hope you'll forgive me. Okay. There's a couple of things I want to do. I just got to take it one step at a time. With these more complicated things, like you just have to like get one thing working at a time and just keep working. But what I wanted to do is I want the charge after it ends. I want the spider, Lowrider spider, to collide with the wall and then like shoot a bunch of projectiles again. Yeah, a lot to do, but let's just make sure that this is working now. Are you using some placeholder texture for the boss now? Yeah. Yeah, I want to make sure that the boss is going to feel good in terms of the mechanics before I do the art, because the art for this boss is going to be somewhat difficult, I think. And I don't want to spend time on that until I'm sure that the boss fight itself is going to work well. Ooh, look at that. That's a cool. Oof, yeah. It outruns the telegraph indicator, which is fun. So I'm going to need to add some kind of like wind up animation, I think. Yeah. So I need to add a charge attack wind up here. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's actually call it charge wind up. I want to do all kinds of particle effects too. Like I want to have smoke coming off of the tires and like do tire streaks when it's like braking really hard and everything. I think I'm going to go all out on the particles for this boss. This boss is going to take me a long time, but you know, that's how it goes. Enter state charge wind up, state charge wind up. Okay. So in here, what I want to do probably is do velocity component dot acceleration coefficient, something like 8, so that I can decelerate very quickly. Oh, multiplier. We're going to call velocity component dot decelerate. I'm going to say if the velocity is less than, I don't know, 20 pixels per second, then we can do state machine dot change state charge attack. And we're going to need to do the, oh my gosh, the telegraphing in here. Going to need to add some more delays and whatnot, but one thing at a time. So we'll add all those states there, and then instead of going into the state charge attack immediately, we'll go into the state charge windup. All right. Hello, Alex Sir Weaver. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Do you use common coding pattern like factory builder, decorating pattern in your game? I have builders and I have factories, I guess you could say, but I don't make use of them very commonly. Just in very certain circumstances. I don't think I'm using the decorator pattern at all. I'm not even sure I could tell you what that is off the top of my head. I'd have to look into it. But yeah, I am making some use of some of that stuff. Yeah, I did move code with factory and builder. Okay. So this appears to be working relatively well. So what's happening is that the Lowrider spider will stop, like decelerate very quickly. Oh, that didn't work so well. Yeah, okay, that's looking good. I think what I'm going to do is turn down this. First of all, I'm going to remove the ads as well because they're a little bit distracting. I'm going to change this multiplier to 6. All right, let's try that. So just solid principles are enough most of the time. Yeah, especially in like game development. I'm not building enterprise software, right? And so it's like, I think it would be a mistake in some instances to try to bring like the more enterprisey strategies to a game, because a game is complex in its own way, but it's not complex in the same way as like a big software application, right? Okay. Yeah, so the problem is as he slows down to decelerate, that telegraph arrow is created at the same time, but he will still decelerate off of his course a little bit, and so he becomes misaligned with the telegraph arrow. So I think I need to fix that. And the way to fix that is to not spawn the telegraph arrow until he's basically stopped. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's add a timer. We'll leave it at 1 second. A charge windup timer. So in here, do I need to add another state? Basically, when I get down below a certain velocity threshold, I want to start that timer. But I don't want to start that timer until I hit that threshold, but then I need to check when that timer's done as well. So, I mean, I could listen to the timeout, but I don't. So here's a little thing that I have trouble with in terms of timers and state machines. So if you want to use a timer inside of a state machine, I think that it's not necessarily a good idea to listen to the timeout signal of that timer, because if you start a timer, and let's say it's a 3-second timer or whatever, and when the timer finishes, you want to do something, you're actually not guaranteed that when that timeout signal is fired, that you're still in the state that you think you are. In other words, it's possible for the entity to change to a different state halfway through the timer, where the timer is only relevant to a very specific state. And so I don't like listening to the timeout signals when I'm using timers with state machines for that reason, because you could accidentally initiate some kind of behavior that's not appropriate because you're not actually in the state that you were in anymore, right? And so that's why in my state machines, you'll always see me referencing timers like I'll check manually if they're stopped, because then I can do that within the state logic itself. And if I change to a different state, well, the timer could still be running, but it doesn't matter because I'm not going to do anything when it ends, right? And so, but that creates some problems sometimes. For instance, if I want to, in this state, start a timer when the velocity threshold is at a certain level, but then also do something when the timer stopped again. So I don't know if that makes sense, but in this case, the timer is not going to be running until I start it in here. Charge windup timer.start. But then I need to check if it's stopped again. And that's not going to work logically. So I might need to add another state. Or I could add some kind of Boolean or whatever. Let's just do a Boolean, private bool. Maybe I'll create a Boolean called should show charge attack indicator. And I'll go if charge attack timer is stopped, or charge windup timer is stopped, Okay. This is a little bit hacky, but we'll just go ahead and work with it. And then in here, here's where we'll do the telegraph indicator. And then I'll change the state here. Wait, that's not gonna work. No, I want to put this here. Let's rename this to showing charge attack indicator. That ought to do it. Well, this is a mess, but let's try it. Lowrider spiders are those thick enemies? No, those are spider centaurs. The lowrider spider is going to be a spider that's driving a lowrider. The art is currently just that pink square, but that's going to be obviously changed. I still learn C# and fall in love with it. I understand why a lot of devs choose C#. It scales so much better. Yeah, it does. Yeah, with all the patterns you can apply and everything. Yeah, it's better maintenance, yeah. All right, let's see if my gnarly state machine works. Ooh, it does work. Look at that. Probably a little bit too much of a delay there. So it could probably turn down that timer. Sweet. Let's change this to 0.5 seconds instead of 1 second. That should just make it feel a lot more responsive. I think this is working pretty good. Yeah, I think that's working pretty good. So I'm just thinking about all the ways that I can make this thing move. I think what would be interesting is that if during its normal phase as it's driving around, it just kind of like emits random artillery things. I could probably even turn this down even more to 0.3. We just need some kind of delay there before it immediately charges up and goes. Hello, Reached. I hope I'm trying to remember the pronunciation you gave me. I think I'm almost there. All right, that's looking good. Yeah, that's going to be cool with all the particle effects and the car and like the engine sounds and the tire squealing. That's going to look really cool. All right, let's add a stun state now. So um, when it hits a wall, I want to do a couple things. So when it hits a wall, I want the lowrider spider to just stop immediately and just like stay there stunned. But then also I want to spawn some things that like fall from the ceiling, kind of like the cheese meteor from the Rat King. And I think that it would be interesting to have those like follow the player to some extent. Because the thing about the lowrider spider is that it's going to be using the entire arena, so it'll like shoot from one corner to the other. And if I don't make it have some sort of like global attacks where it can target you regardless of its position in relationship to you, then it's going to just be very easy fight, because if all the attacks have to be in a certain proximity and yet the thing is just driving around the entire arena, you know, you're not really going to be under any threat as a player. So I need to have some kind of like global attacks where the lowrider spider can kind of hit you from a variety of places. By the way, I was always wondering, did you make the in-game console specifically for testing Gunforged? Or is it a publicly available add-on? No, I made it specifically for Gunforged. Yeah, I don't know. The only reason it works is because I have a very specific sort of layout. Basically, if you look at this entities folder here, the way that the debug console works is it reads all of these file names, and then it maps the name to the path of the scene. And so when I go in and I say spawn, rat, it knows that, okay, the word rat corresponds to this path in the file system. And so that means just take that packed scene, instantiate it, and throw it into the game. And then the console is very simple. Otherwise, it basically just like the first word is the command. So whether it's spawn or add or whatever else. And then the second argument is the name of the scene that you want to add to the tree. And then there's like a third argument in a lot of cases, which is the amount. So I could say spawn rat 5 and it would spawn 5 rats, right? So I don't know if there's a way that you could generalize that debug console in a way that makes it applicable to all projects. It's very project organization dependent. Telegraph arrow looks much more accurate now. Yeah, that was the goal, so I'm glad. Just want to stop by and let you know that your 2D Survivors course was my intro to Godot, and I was able to make my own game in 3 months based on only making it through like half the videos. Nice. You're welcome. Thanks for your message, and thanks for purchasing the course. That helps me out a lot, but I'm glad to hear that you got a lot of value out of it as well. And if anyone else is watching right now or watching the VOD, you can check out that course. The link for it is in the description below. There's also a new C# one. So if you're interested in learning C# specifically, check that one out as well. Looks like a very useful nonetheless, yeah. Yeah, it is very useful. I definitely think, like, especially with larger games, like, take a couple hours and build a debug console for yourself. It doesn't need to be perfect. Like, it's one of those things where you may be tempted to, like, make it work in all the edge cases. That debug console is, like, horribly broken in a lot of cases, but the main thing is that it allows me to do the main things that I want to do very quickly, and that's the main goal. So it doesn't need to be perfect. Just throw something together, and then it'll work. I need to finish going through it. I love your vids. Thank you. Speaking of videos, on the 30th, so the day before Halloween, I've got a video ready to go that covers pixel art. So a lot of you have been asking how I learned pixel art. And so I've got a like pixel art tips video coming out. I guess that would be next week. That covers a lot of the tips that I learned that dramatically increased the quality of my pixel art. So be on the lookout for that. C# the best coding language? Yes. Yes, indeed. Well, I like JavaScript and TypeScript a lot too. Don't tell anyone. And don't make a command line tool until you really need it, yeah. How do I even use the tutorials without copying one by one? That's a good question. So I think in my survivors course, there are several instances where I kind of encourage you to do your own thing, tweak numbers or tweak behaviors in certain small ways. That's a good place to start. But the goal of the survivors course, like my goal for the survivors course was to show you like a systematic approach in terms of like, here's how you can go about implementing things. And the goal of that is to show you like, here's the pattern that you can use to now implement your own abilities. So what I would recommend is find a good tutorial like that, whether it's on YouTube or Udemy or wherever else. And once you've gotten a good way into the project or the tutorial and you finished it, or I should say, or you finished it, then try to add your own stuff to that project. Don't just stop there and say, well, I finished the tutorial. Like, take what you learned and take that project that you have now and try to add something that's in keeping with the overall patterns that you've been using. So I'm just going to use my survivors course as an example. Like, make a new ability that I didn't show you how to make. I showed you the pattern of how to implement abilities and upgrades and all that stuff. And so try to utilize that pattern now to build your own thing. And because it's your own thing, there's not going to be a video covering it, right? But the idea is that everything you need to know in order to do that has already been presented in the course. So that's a great way to practice, is take your tutorial projects and try to extend them in your own way. Don't just stop when the tutorial's done and say, I'm good now. So anyway, hopefully that helps. My next long-term project is a survivors-like RPG based in a corporate world. That sounds funny. That sounds really funny. You could add a lot of humor to that game, I bet. Already finished the GD and started prototyping mechanics. Nice. Yeah, that does sound fun. All right, let's add a stun state now to the Lowrider spider. But give me a couple minutes. I'm going to take a quick break. And then when I come back, we'll go ahead and add that state. So in the meantime, again, please check out the links in the description below. I am trying to make it as a full-time indie developer / Udemy course instructor. So any bit of support helps, even if it's something as small as liking the video or financially picking up one of my courses. Anything, any little bit or any lot of bit helps. So please check out the links in the description below if you're interested in supporting me. And I'll be back in 2 minutes and we'll continue work on the Lowrider spider. Alrighty, let's get back to work. By the way, is anyone excited for Path of Exile 2? It's coming out early access in November. I'm going to have some fun with that. Coming out at a most inopportune time though, because I have to finish Gunforged and not play video games, but I'm looking forward to it. Fun story, I've learned to make plugins in GDScript so I can make export field with enum flags. I spent a day on it. Next day, hold on a second. Next day I spent 2 minutes in C# just by tagging a field with flags attribute. So what do you mean you can export? You can make an export field with enum flags. What does that mean? I'm not sure I'm understanding exactly what you made there. That's the dilemma. I want to try Shadow right now, but I'm in the zone right now with coding. Yeah. Yep. It's an internal struggle. Honestly, though, I haven't really been that interested in video games lately. Every so often I'll just try to like install something and play it, but I just can't really get into anything. I don't know if it's... I just turned 30 years old, so maybe that's just a part of getting older. But Path of Exile 2 I'm genuinely excited for, so maybe it's just there's not that much that interests me anymore. Except Gunforge, of course. All right, enough about that stuff. Let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to commit what I have. Let's add a stunned state now. So we'll add those 3 states. Oops, stunned, not stuned. So we're adding those to the state machine. So what I want to do is I want to make it so that when I collide with a wall, I enter the stunned state. Now, how that's going to work exactly, I think what I need to do is I need to say private bool collided, and we'll just set that here. So this move will return the result of move and slide, which returns true if there was a collision. Yeah, okay. So enter state stunned. Velocity component dot velocity is equal to vector 2 dot 0. State stunned, we can pretty much do nothing there. State, leave state stunned, what do we want to do here? Maybe we don't really need that. But what we do need to do is that when we're in this state charge attack here, wonder if I even need this anymore. I wonder if I could just do if collided. State machine dot change state stunned. So I don't even need that distance check anymore. Okay, then we need a stunned timer. We'll make it 2 seconds. Start the timer when we enter the state. And then we'll just go back to change state normal when the timer is stopped again. So let's take a gander at that. I mean that I don't need any plugin to make an export field with a flag enum value. Oh, I see. Okay. I gotcha. I'm watching game streams instead. Yeah, I've been doing that a little bit with respect to the upcoming Path of Exile 2. Sometimes that's entertaining, more entertaining than playing games. Most anticipated games are released at the most inconvenient times for us. Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. 36 here, I found UFO 50 to be entertaining in that classic difficulty challenge way. Other than that, I just have one or two go-to Eternal games like Warframe or Hades. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I think my Eternal games, like the games I keep coming back to are like the From Software games. Sekiro, Elden Ring, Dark Souls. Those are just nice kind of like pick up and play challenging games, you know? What is another game that I continually return to? Some of the open world survival craft games like Terraria or Valheim or V-Rising. I don't play those like eternally, but if I have the itch, those are the games I'll go to. Trying to make particles for my game or for my gun. What should I use and how? Are you making a pixel 2D game? Or are you... Yeah, and what do you mean what you should use? Like what pixel or what particle art should you use? What colors should you use? Are there any things you would have done different for this project, looking back at it, coding architecture-wise? Yes, I think... Well, you know, that's a tricky question to answer because I think if you're properly developing your game, it's going to change pretty significantly over the course of development, which necessarily means that some systems that you write early on are going to become kind of misfits in the sense of like, yeah, had you made this system for the game as it exists now, it would be a lot different. But because you made this system 6 months or a year ago and it was solving somewhat of a different need, now it's kind of turned into a Frankenstein monster where you couldn't justify rewriting it. And so you just kind of like modified it a little bit to fit the new vision of the game. And so there's all kinds of places in this game where if I were to just sit down, I would rewrite the system because it's solving a different need than it was originally designed for. But that's not necessarily a regret, right? That's not necessarily something that I just did it wrong from the start. It's more so that the game outgrew that system and now it's just kind of like an imperfect system. So there are definitely lots of cases in that. I think what I would say is that you're probably not, if you're going to make a big mistake early, that's going to manifest itself very quickly and you'll have to rewrite it. So I wouldn't be too paranoid about that. Like, you'll know very quickly, generally speaking, if you make a critical mistake that just makes it, you know, makes the game unworkable. I think as long as you're following good software design patterns where you're not coupling things too tightly and you're not inserting logic in a bunch of places where it shouldn't be, I think what you'll find is that games are like Gunforge is very extensible. Like there's very little that I can't do that I want to do because I've really tried to keep everything encapsulated and like loosely coupled. And it's not perfect, but if you follow that and you just try to make your game extensible and maintainable, then there are very few mistakes that you can't recover from, or at least can't recover from in a reasonable amount of time. But in terms of anything specific for Gunforged, I am not sure. I mean, if I were to take an example of what I was talking about earlier, where it's like a system outgrew itself, I think I would probably rework how the gun parts and stats work. It's just not as clean as it could be, but again, it was solving a somewhat different need in the past. So, but I can't, it's not worth the time to fix it because it works. It's just kind of ugly. So, I want to follow the direction of my gun, be small and straight at start, but then big and explosive. Well, what I do for my guns is I have a marker 2D that is at the position of the barrel of the gun, and then I spawn the muzzle flash effects as a child of that marker so that it inherits the rotation of the gun and everything. And then what you do is like you can just make your particle system like this standard muzzle flash here. Like you can just make it go to the right. So make it shoot out to the right with your particle system. And then you can just rotate that whole thing with the gun. So I hope that helps you answer that question. CPU or GPU? I think you should probably use the GPU particles. That's what I'm using in Gunforged anyway. There's a practice of making a rough prototype from start to vertical slice and then redo it, knowing all the experienced issues. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I guess it depends, right? I mean, it depends on what your timelines are. It depends on how experienced you are of a game developer too. I'm not entirely sure that experienced game developers need to go that far with prototyping. I think experienced game developers, and I don't count myself necessarily among those people, I still need to do quite a bit of prototyping. But I think it's one of those things where as you get good at it and as you get more experience, you kind of know right off the bat how to design a fun game, and you kind of know what's going to work and what's not, even before you prototype it. Like there's less guesswork, right? It's like anything. It's like any field. Like as a software engineer, I didn't need to like do a bunch of research on how to implement more complex systems because I already knew how to do it, right? Like even if I didn't know the specifics, I knew, oh, we're going to use a third-party tool for that, and we'll use this cloud service for this piece of the equation. And like, I didn't need to prototype anything because I kind of already knew what I was doing, you know? So, but yeah, prototyping is very important, I think, especially if you're inexperienced, because you need to kind of see how everything's working. It's hard to have the perfect design right at the start. I'm a perfectionist with code, but recently been trying to go progress over perfection and only refactor the big stuff. Yeah, that's a good strategy. Being a perfectionist is one of the things that I had to get over myself. It's like, you know, is it good enough? Is it solving the need? And as long as it's not causing any major problems, like as long as it's not an egregiously designed piece of code, then you kind of just have to let things slide. How do I make it point right? Well, you just have the velocity, the initial velocity of the particle, just go in the x direction 1 unit. From Software doesn't need to redo because they're proficient in it. Yeah, exactly. From Software has been using the same engine and the same assets for like over a decade now, and it works. They know how to make their games, you know? Okay. So what am I doing? Oh yeah, we were going to test this Lowrider spider. Okay, so that was the stun. So he hit the wall there. But let's see if it works with these pillars too. It does. Does it work with these? Okay, so that's actually working really well. Okay, let's make some kind of like let's take like a cheese meteor. Oh, my gorgeous piece of cheese that I drew. That actually does look pretty good, if you don't mind me saying. So we're basically going to want something similar here. Do I want to make it a meteor? What would be, so let me ask you guys. So let's say this Lowrider spider is driving his Lowrider. He screeches into a wall and slams into it. The screen shakes and everything, and he remains stunned momentarily. What would be like an area damage thing that could be spawned during that time? That would be thematic. So I'm thinking either something falling from the ceiling and kind of tracking the player, so you have like boom, 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 you know, either falling from the ceiling or coming out of the ground or something like that. But like, what is thematic? Like, should it be like an engine that falls down? Should it be like tires or wheels or mufflers? Something thematic. What do you think about entity component system? Would you or did you try that? I don't think I've really tried that. I mean, I think it sounds like an effective design pattern to me. I'm just not sure of the technicals in terms of how it actually plays out from a developer's perspective. So I'm not sure if I have a great opinion on that. It's something that I'd be interested to try, but as far as I'm aware, it's not really applicable in Godot, so I don't really have a reason to try it out. Would I eat a cheese meteor IRL if it fell in my yard? It depends on how long it's been there, I guess. If it fell out of the sky right now, and I was able to get out there within like a minute or two, and take a chunk of it off and eat it, I would, but if it was sitting there for like a day, no. Engine parts. Yeah, engine parts would work. Break trace as a spider web. Oh, the trail, do you mean? Like the break trails? Other smaller minion spiders bungeeing down from above. That's a good one, yeah, because I don't have a whole lot of spider theme with the boss yet. So maybe like all you know would be so funny. Little tiny spiders in little tiny cars just rocketing down from the sky. That would be so unbelievably funny. I got a bit late. What's the theme of the boss? So the theme of the boss is Lowrider spider. So if you know what a lowrider is, it's like the typical, like, you're watching a movie from like the 90s and it's like the gangsters pull up in a lowrider. Let's see. So it's like this, right? Or they're like super low, the suspension's lowered to the ground. Or a lot of them have like hydraulics too, where they bounce up and down, you know? So imagine that, and the driver is a spider. So it's Lowrider Spider. All right, sounds good. Thanks for joining the stream. Have a good day, and I hope to see you in the next one. So that's the theme of the boss. Yeah, I like the idea of having like little spiders fall down from the ceiling, but maybe they're in either like little biplanes or something, or they could just be in their own little vehicles. Or they could just be by themselves, you know, little spiders. I think that sounds good, unless anyone else has any other suggestions, but that sounds funny to me, so let's do that. So let's create a spider meteor. Again, we're just going to use one of these streams will be like an art-focused stream where I draw some of this stuff up. I think that'll be fun, but we're just going to use placeholders for now. So our cheese meteor I think I'm just going to copy this, honestly. Feels a little bit lazy to just copy an entire ability outright, but I think what I can do is make it different enough so that it has its own identity. It's going to be the same, like, general thing where it's something falling from the ground, but it's going to have a different attack pattern, and it's going to have different visuals, and it's going to have a different animation as well, so I think it'll be fine. We'll turn on the radius as well. We don't want it to have a transition as it's going from its position to the ground. Let's turn it down as well. So it's only going to be in the air for 1 second. Radius, thickness, enemy, yep. All that's good. Now this global position start, yeah. I don't want any of this here. Probably do some kind of particle effect here instead. Let's just do a Q free here. Okay, so it's kind of similar, but not really. So there's our spider meteor. Let's drag that on over. We'll do a meteor interval timer with a wait time of 0.2. Well, let's do 0.25 actually. Okay. So private timer, meteor, interval timer. So when we're in the stunned state, if meteor interval timer is stopped, we're going to create a method called spawn meteor, and then meteor interval timer dot start. And we're going to do that. We're going to start it here too. Where's the try spawn at here? Why is that in the middle of... Okay. That's not good. Let's put it up here. Put it above the states. So we're going to do a spawn meteor. This one should be relatively straightforward, I think. Var meteor is equal to resource preloader, instance scene or null, spider meteor. This dot get base level dot entities dot add child meteor dot global position is equal to this dot get player dot global position. Or we're just going to use the global position of the entity if the player is not available for whatever reason. And then we're going to call meteor dot start. I think that's basically it. So now it's going to spawn those meteors while it's stunned. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. That's a cool concept. Yeah, you like the Lowrider spider? I think it's... I love how goofy this game is, honestly. I don't know if I would ever make like a serious game. Maybe I would, but I just love when games are just over the top goofy. It's just so entertaining. What is the scene attribute? Is it used for a console command? No, it's my Godot source generators. Yeah, Vidra's got it. So I should make a video overview on my Godot utilities package, but basically, it allows me to quickly wire up nodes. It allows me to quickly assign nodes to members of my C# class without having to like write out like, you know, the Godot style get node all the time. Honestly, the Godot developers should just steal that and make it a default part of the C# language. So if any Godot developers are watching, feel free to take my source generators and just copy paste them and put them in the engine itself. It's MIT licensed anyway, so it's not like they need my permission, but bam. Oh yeah, look at that, spider meteors. Those probably don't, yeah, hold on. So let's turn the thickness down. And we probably want... It does need to accelerate a little bit, but I don't know how to do that. Maybe we'll just try a sine curve. Yeah, the node one is the node one is part of my source generators as well. All right, Vidra, thanks so much for joining the stream. It was great to see you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you in one of the next streams. Have a good day. Let's see if we can get this working. That looks pretty good. All right, now I'm going to add something that's going to be really cool. Watch this. So when we enter the state stunned, game camera.shake 1. The camera shake when the spider collides with the walls is going to be just going to add so much. I think I'm getting to the point now. So wait, I have a couple of attacks. So the Lowrider spider can spawn adds in the form of spider centaurs. It can drive around, run into things, send those down, do the spin to win move here. Yeah, honestly, I think this is looking pretty good. I don't know if I need another attack besides this. I do need to make him able to damage the player when he's in his charge attack. And I probably want to make the charge radius wider as well. So I'm going to have to modify my charge attack. What I am going to do, though, is I just noticed a little bug. I'm going to set this to... I'm just going to set this to collided equals false just to reset that. Because I think there was a... The collided was true before the next move call could happen. And so it was entering this state charge attack. But because on the last frame it had collided, it was immediately changing to the stun state. So what I'm going to do is instead... set collided to false, the velocity component is being set to 0 here, and so it should be correct at the next frame then, so that should work. So what will appear as a spider meteor? Yeah, I think it's going to be like little spiders in little vehicles. So it's going to be like a little mini copies of him. Either that, or it'll just be like a spider that's like a kind of... or maybe a spider that's got a bomb strapped to it or something. I'll have to play with the visuals a little bit and see what happens. So yeah, we're not getting the full picture of the boss though with that test, because I need to uncomment this try spawn add here. So with all of those boss attacks, with the boss driving around, and I want to modify the driving behaviors a little bit as well. But with the boss driving around and the boss spawning those spider centaurs, which are also a threat. There's going to be a lot you're going to have to dodge. Wow, he's doing his charge attack quite frequently. Why is he doing his charge attack so much? Oh, I know why. Yeah, I know why. The charge attack timer is being restarted when the leave start state charge attack happens. So I'm going to do this. If charge attack timer does stop, I'm going to start it there instead of starting it at the end of that state. I'll start it when the spider comes back to the normal state. Okay. That ought to work. I've only been here for 15 minutes, and this game's unserious, creative, artistic style reminds me of Toe Jam and Earl Sega style games I love playing growing up. Loving the channel stream so far. Well, thank you. That's a great compliment. I appreciate that. And welcome to the stream. I'm glad to have you here, Ryan. Hello, see you, Dev. That's funny. Yeah, I think I like the goofiness of it all. I can't wait to get some art in place now that the boss is shaping up pretty good. Once I get the art in place, so we can actually see the goofy spider driving around with the particles and other animations and whatnot. Yeah, this is gonna work good. He keeps getting stuck here and then immediately slamming into it, though. That's funny. Of course, when we're fighting him, there won't be all these other things in the middle here. But this is just testing. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this boss is shaped up currently. Obviously, I'm invulnerable right now, and the spider centaurs are dying in one hit because I have debug mode on. So we'll have to do a more serious test of the boss, get that all set up and everything. But I'm liking the attack pattern so far. Obviously, some things will need to be tweaked, but you know, one thing at a time. So I'll commit that. Hello, Thiago Dev. Welcome, welcome. Did I make the Steam capsule myself? No, I hired an artist for the Steam store page art. I can't do art that's artsy, I guess you could say. All right, well, I think that'll be it for the stream today, unless anyone has any other questions. Happy to stick around and answer any questions. But in the meantime, while I'm waiting for any final questions to come in, wow, what am I saying? If you want to support my work, you can check out the links in the description below. Purchasing one of my Udemy courses is a great way to support me as I'm trying to make it as a full-time indie game developer. I'm like this close to being financially self-sufficient. So yeah, any amount of support helps. Even just liking the video helps a ton, but definitely check out the links in the description below to see how you can support my work. And yeah, I'm sorry, there's a lot of people that just got here, but I'll be calling the stream here very shortly. But yeah, if anyone has any other questions or comments, happy to stick around for a little bit. Hello, Jesse the Fish. Sorry, ending the stream now, but thank you for tuning in. You're welcome. Thank you all for being here. All right, it looks like there's no final questions. So with that, I will wish you all a good day and keep an eye out on the channel. I'm going to be doing more streams. I'm feeling much stronger and able to do the streams again. So probably be doing a stream tomorrow and several streams next week as well. So hit that notification bell to be notified when I'm going live. And again, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next